Alrighty, I got the high sign that we are live streaming. Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out on a snowy day. It looks like the weather's not as bad as it may have been predicted, but it's always good to get some moisture. Before we call the roll, I'd like to invite Pastor Anderson up to provide an invocation and lead us in the pledge.
We ask your hand to be upon our sheriff, Lord, and our fire department, and all those that serve. Lord, protect our community and just give us wisdom and direction we should go. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Alrighty, the time is now 9:02. Clerk Braun, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Thayer? Here. Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Schroeder?
Here.
Alrighty, first item of business we have today is approval of the agenda. I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion carries. Okay, first item of business we have is approval of several items on consent. I would accept a motion to approve the consent items.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the consent items as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the items on consent. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Alrighty, elected officials, department head, staff reports. Do we have any elected officials that have anything today?
Good morning. Oh,
Morning.
there we go.
Here, we got you.
Sherry Hewlett, Elbert County Treasurer and Public Trustee. I just wanted to briefly go over the amended fourth quarter Public Trustees report. So when I did the report in January, the revenue that I put in was just for December instead of the whole fourth quarter. So when I did my January reconciliation for the month, I discovered my error. So it's about it's $3,580.64 additional excess funds for the fourth quarter of 2022. So I just wanted to make my apologies on that and let you know what happened there. So anyway, that was the reason for the amended report. Do you have any questions or?
No, I appreciate the correction though.
Okay.
Thanks for keeping on top of that.
Thank you.
Alrighty, staff reports. Bobby, just an update on what's going on in facilities and primarily the public workshop.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bobby Chevalier, Elbert County Facilities. So I'll give you guys all a copy of kind of where we're at right now. To date, total for the budget for the project is $12 million. To date, we've spent $5,007,586. Recap of February here, the structure is about 90% complete. We still got some doorways and some windows stuff to frame in. They've started on the wall panels. It's about the same. We're about 90% on that. We've got some areas where we've got to get some backfill and stuff done before they can continue there. And they're hoping to get started on the roof if Mother Nature will help us out a little bit. So our sewer line we're tied into the town sewer. It is brought to the building, so we're good there. Water is almost to the building. We have not tapped the town's water system yet. We're just not ready for that. And we're trying to get, they've started on all the underground plumbing inside the building. So once again, Mother Nature's not quite helping us out. We're having to run a lot of ground thaw machines and stuff. So we've got pipe laid. Now we got to thaw it all out again so we can bed it and put it underground. So it's kind of a slow process. The temps and the snow haven't been helping us. We've got Dyer is our excavation company. They're getting ready to start excavating for the footings for the salt sand shed. So that's kind of where we're at to the end of the month here, is what we'll be continuing to work on. In March, we're just going to continue with trying to get all the wall panels, roof, doors, that stuff, so we can at least get dried in and keep some of that weather out. We did get, it's not on here, but we did get all of our easements and stuff for Core Electric. So we're about 8 to 10 weeks out on getting power to the site, which is kind of been a long road, as you know, but we're finally making some headway there. Continuing with the underground plumbing, we've got some mezzanines that are here and about ready to start installing for all of our HVAC equipment. And then in March, we're striving to get our fine grade and get our slabs laid in, which once we get slabs laid in, things are gonna start moving even quicker. The focus is going to be on Area B, which is the admin area. Everything else is pretty much an open box. So that's the big push right now, is to keep working on that so we can stay on schedule. We're going to be forming and pouring the slabs for the salt sand shed, start getting that up, and continuing with our water tap. And then just a few projects we're working on with the county buildings that has nothing to do with the road and bridge shop. We're putting our bid packet together to get the parking lot in this admin building repaved, get some sidewalks replaced, fix some more of the drainage, which we started on last year, try to help with some of the ice that we continually fight around here. The next one would be getting a bid packet together for HVAC in this building, get some AC rolling in here where we can get rid of all of these window shakers that we have. Kind of see what those numbers look like and go from there. We're still continuing with our bid process for the facility shop. That's going to go up on the road and bridge laydown yard, basically what's there now. So we're working on that process, and then we're working with Core. We finally got everything done to finish upgrading the electrical at the campground for HHS and on the west side of the campground, and then finish phase 2 of the campground remodel once we have power. So that's updating transformers and that west fence line.
So I guess if March continues to be our snowiest month,
it's going to be a struggle. You know, if we can get the roof on that thing and we can get the side panels on, it shouldn't slow us down too much. It might slow down some of the exterior work, but if we can get that thing dried in, we can work.
nobody could have anticipated winter, I guess.
Yeah. You know, and we're fighting the mud.
No, I get it.
And like our tracking pad, getting out on the state highway, we're constantly having to refresh that thing and clean it before CDOT comes and shuts us down for tracking mud all over everything. But it's just everything's kind of a mess right now.
Yeah, no, it's moving along good, so thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Shane?
Morning, Commissioners. Shane Pines, Office of Emergency Management. Here just to do a quick update on our Hazard Mitigation Plan, or H&P. The process has been undergone for just 1 year. It's a comprehensive look at our county's hazards and means of mitigation and prioritizing of our efforts to address those. The plan has passed its preliminary review by the state, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. It's currently being reviewed by FEMA. Don't anticipate any significant alterations or holdbacks. With that said, the goal is to address any questions at the next BOCC meeting with the hope for adoption in late March or early April. And that's all I have.
Nope, no, appreciate I know that was quite a bit of work and a lot of coordination with a lot of stakeholders, so we're good to put it on discussion at the next meeting then.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other staff? Yeah, Mark.
Morning, Mr. Chair, commissioners, other elected officials, staff, and fellow citizens. I'm Mark Dettenreiter, Director of Community and Economic Development for Elbert County Government. Gentlemen, I just wanted to share with you today one of our county-owned properties. As you know, we have 96 county-owned properties. Other than the buildings we have and the fairgrounds, most of our county properties are not buildable. We inherited those along the way. They're in subdivisions or in drainages and so forth. But there is one property in particular that I'd like to mention and chat with you today that does have some high value. And it has great potential actually for public use. This is a 150-acre county-owned property. It's more or less on the corner of County Road 21 and County Road 166. This is a prime property that would be good for public open space or some type of park facility. The idea here is to put this property to good use for the public to enjoy. The public could certainly benefit from this property if we partner with an organization, an entity that could build out our vision of what this property could be. Some examples of what it could be. There's definitely room for a nice trail system through there along that property. There's a nice drainage that would be nice for that. Some ball fields possibly, an amphitheater, maybe a bike track. At this stage, we're more or less seeking permission from you, the BOCC, to invest staff time in exploring what is possible with this property. Options for this range from selling the property to an entity or, let's say a 100-year lease, that type of thing. But whoever this partner organization ends up being, we need to get their assurances that they would build it out over a certain period of time, and then B, they would also have to be sure that they have the necessary funding to execute this and to get the work done to create something great for the public. And then finally, it would be very vitally important that, however that it is developed, it needs to be in a way that aligns with the county's vision, your vision for that particular property. So really just looking for that head nod, if you will, today from you to keep going and exploring this.
I'll nod my head. But I thought we'd been talking to Elizabeth Park and Rec about this particular property.
And we have, Commissioner. This is really more or less an opportunity just to present this in a public setting to ensure that folks know that we are looking at the possibilities with respect to this property.
No, I think it's a great idea to pursue and see what we can get worked out there. It'll be a benefit to everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think to your list of things we would want, I think it was understood but not stated that it remain open to the public as a public amenity.
Correct.
Yeah, so, yeah, please keep talking with them. We're not we have a Parks and Recs district, and that's their core mission. We have some land. I think there's some opportunity to make something that's vacant and can't even be grazed based on deeded restrictions. So let's see what we can do to make it available to the public. So thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll forge ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any staff reports. Okay. Tim, did you have anything or no? Okay. All right. So with that, we'll end staff reports from elected officials and department heads and move on to open public comment. I guess I'll start by asking, is there anybody here today to make public comment on anything other than Excel's proposal? Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure that if somebody had another issue, it didn't get lost in the shuffle. We had received several email comments that came in. I'll read through those so they're part of the record. Rhonda, did we have anybody that wanted to be called for public comment? No, okay. So I'll roll through what was emailed to us and then open the floor for public comment. At that time, we do ask to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Please give your name and address. Just to kind of give everybody kind of a common picture of where we're at. I know it's probably been about 2 years ago that Excel or somebody working for Excel started sending some postcards out, and we were contacted by several landowners down, actually it was south of Kiowa off 45, and that was kind of the first indication we had that Excel was thinking about doing some things, or somebody was thinking about doing some things. Over that next couple of years, that gave us the impetus to kind of update our 1041 regulations, which allow us to have some influence on projects of this type. I know initially Excel had sent out a general map that the POC had said, hey, here's a transmission corridor that runs from somewhere west of Elizabeth to somewhere east of Kiowa and just runs up the middle of the county, and certainly didn't make many people happy with that. We, and I know members of the public, have also been urging Excel along the way to keep pushing, look farther to the east. There's existing power lines out there. What can we do there? I think midsummer, Excel went back to the PUC and expanded their search area, for lack of a better term, farther to the east, touching into Lincoln County. That's kind of where things were at the end of the summer. And then December, we found out, I think when everybody else did, when Excel updated their website, that their preferred route, and it's what they prefer, that they have made public, is to come up essentially from Rama to 86 to here, cross above the water tower somewhere west of Kiowa Bennett and go north. Again, that's the only information we have had. Excel doesn't have an application before us, and to the best of my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, I'm seeing the head nod, they haven't reached out even to schedule a pre-application meeting. So again, no application before us, so we can certainly take all the input that people want to give at this point. And I would also urge anybody that has opinions, and you all do because you're here, is also reach out to Excel and reach out to the PUC. Just make sure that our voices are being heard in this. So with that, I have 5 email submissions of comment, and then we'll move to the room. I'll read the names of the comment. If that person is here and would rather make in-person comment, we'll do that instead. But the first was from Debbie Cromer. Okay, and she wrote, I want to express my concern about the latest proposed route for Excel's high power line. I attended several of the previous meetings and do not recall this route being considered. I think the better plan is farther east, parallel to County Road 149, or even further east. The worst plan is across the basin as proposed. It doesn't seem like Excel is listening to any suggestions, but I hope our county commissioners can prevail and stop them from coming across the Bijou Basin. Thank you. The second is from Susan Knapp. Okay. She writes, my hope was initially to meet each of you and attend the meeting today. My brother David Knapp and I purchased the home at 11340 Copper Canyon Circle in Kiowa on September 14th, 2022. Quality of construction and the views from Villa de Vesper that was built by Bob and Ursula Hummel, the sellers, is perfection, to which my brother loosely refers to as the cabin with views beyond my dreams. There was no mention of potential power lines along Kiowa Bennett Road, or it might have affected our decision for this location. If additional interest looks to this location, I fully intend to be informed and voice my concerns that my brother and I might have. We are fourth-generation Coloradans with a mother and grandparents from Flagler and Araba. Dad was from Fort Lupton. We love this area. I was on the Arapahoe County Planning Commission for 17 years and respect a landowner's right to use their property, but in respect to balance to others. I've asked the clerk to keep me on the list of interested citizens to receive notification of future discussions. And then lengthier one from Mark Knipe, or Knipe? Yeah, do you want me to read this, or would you like to make comment? Okay. All right, I'm writing this letter to voice my opposition to the current preferred and alternate routes for segment 5 of XL's Colorado Power Pathway. With Colorado's growth along the Front Range and the increased demand for more energy, new transmission facilities are needed. The residents of Elbert and other rural counties in Colorado are greatly impacted by the needs and the decisions of those in the larger metropolitan communities. When a commissioner for the PUC is quoted as saying, "We are going to slather the eastern plains with wind and solar," it indicates that our communities are not a priority. Our way of life does not matter, and the only thing perceived as being of value is our resource of open space and land to benefit the metro communities' demands for more energy. I just want to emphasize that was a commissioner for the PUC, not one of us. These high voltage transmission lines will, one, negatively impact our community, health concerns, views, landowner rights, negatively impact the abundant wildlife in the area, change migration patterns, affect nesting, decrease property values by up to 45%, valuation study and from the Wall Street Journal, increase the threat of wildfire in the area with tall grasses and many trees, not benefit Elbert County. The power is for the greater Denver metro area. Bring wind and solar facilities to the area, which will be even more impactful to the environment and community. I understand that you recently updated the 1041 zoning regulations, whose purpose is to facilitate the identification, designation, and regulation of areas or activities of state interest in Elbert County. Within those revised regulations, Section D 4.5 says, for new transmission lines and wind energy generation facilities and turbine installation, existing easements shall be used to the greatest extent possible, and expansion of existing easements is preferable to requiring new easements. I propose that having XL use and or expand the existing right-of-way by using the existing line along Quincy east-west and then down through the Rush Creek area north-south, or by using the easement along I-70 through Rush Creek. This would reduce the impact to residents of the county, facilitate the needs of the larger metropolitan communities, and respect the 1041 regulations. While there may be a cost increase to this alternative, it is but a small percentage to the overall project and will be amortized across the years of depreciation to the customers who are benefiting from the project, as opposed to the great costs that would be incurred by rural residents who receive no benefit if the current proposed routes are used. We're counting on you to do your due diligence to protect the citizens of Elbert County and this beautiful place where we live. Thank you for that. And please come and speak if we get to hearings. Number 5 was from Denise Humbert and Bill Coxey. All right, would you like me to read or would you like to speak? Okay, thank you.
I didn't know if you'd get it or not because I sent it so late last night.
No, it's all right. We're here for you.
I'll try not to use my lifeguard voice because it gets pretty loud. My name's Denise Humbert. This is my husband, Bill Coxey.
Glad to meet you.
We both worked for the city of Aurora for over 30 years, 38 for me. We couldn't wait to get out of there and move to Elbert County. So we moved to Elbert County 8 years ago, and it was a dream come true. Away from the crowded city, the noise, the people, the traffic, and the crime. We were drawn to Kiowa for its beauty, its quaint, historic town, and its genuine people. The views from our home, and we live up just on the other side of the water tower there. We wake up every morning to the pink sunrise glow on Pikes Peak and go to sleep every night to the colorful sunsets on Mount Evans and the rest of the Front Range. Sometimes we feel like we're in a Disney movie surrounded by the wildlife of all kinds. This past summer, twin baby antelope were born in our field, a part of a larger band of antelope that summer near the Kiowa Water Tower. A pair of white-tailed fawns followed their mother every day through our property, playing and sleeping with their mother while their mother grazed. We've seen a family of red foxes trotting along our fence line, a beautiful skunk making his rounds, a migrating flock of sandhill cranes land in our field for a nightly rest, because the area around the Kiowa Water Tower is a natural migration path for the sandhill cranes. Every October and April, we see hundreds of cranes flying overhead. Bald eagles are on our phone poles searching for a meal, a great horned owl on our flagpole calling to his mate, a weasel running around like crazy in and out of the gopher holes, the friendly bull snakes that lays in the sun, the blue heron making his daily flight between the ponds, the peregrine falcons that dive for prey from the Kiowa Water Tower, and recently, cougar tracks in the snow. It doesn't get better than this. And then Xcel Energy comes along with their proposed ugly high-voltage towers right through the heart of Kiowa. Sorry, I get emotional. And one of the most beautiful parts of Elbert County. We ask ourselves, how can they do this? How can we let them ruin the quality of life here in Kiowa? I should have had you read it.
I think it has more impact with.
How can they ruin the quality of life that we have here in Kiowa and Elbert County? And how can we stop a powerful company like Xcel Energy? They don't care about us little people. We're just hardworking country folk and proud ranchers. We don't talk fancy, and we don't have a lot of money. Should we just throw in the towel now? No. We are reaching out to our commissioners to fight for us, to deny Xcel Energy's application for Route 5, and to tell them to pound sand. I was trying to be nice.
Commissioners, that's 3 minutes.
Xcel Energy can just take their high voltage power lines out east along I-70. Highway 86 is a scenic drive to Pikes Peak. We often see travelers stopping along 86 to take pictures. We can't imagine the view when miles of ugly towers line Highway 86 and the Kiowa-Bennett Road. Not only are they unsightly, they are dangerous to our wildlife and livestock. They can cause possible health problems from radiation exposure. They can cause fires and electrocution, and they are hazardous to the many small planes and military aircraft that fly daily over and around the Kiowa Water Tower. Not to mention the decrease in property values. It will be harder to sell our homes located near these ugly power lines. We can't think of one good reason why our commissioners would approve these lines coming so close to our homes in town. Please say no to Xcel Energy's Power Pathway Segment 5 in Sayre County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry about that.
No, not at all. And sir, were you the photographer? Excuse me, sir. Ma'am, were you the one that also, did you send the photographs of the tower?
That's right. Did you get them?
Yes, yeah, they came through. Those are beautiful photos. Thank you. Last letter we had, I apparently Ray Marie Knowles. Okay, let me read through that, and then we'll go to comment in the room. I said, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to submit my comments to be placed on the record for the Board of County Commissioners meeting. I would have preferred to speak in person, but as my business provides services to American ranchers and to customers with an emergency need for my services, this had to come first. My name is Ray Marie Knowles, and I live on Kiowa Bennett Road, right in the new proposed path of the project, which would go right through my front yard and over my house and our shop. I submit this comment to you and implore you to listen to me and your other constituents in Elbert County with regard to this XL Power Pathways project. I've been in the fight from the start. As a fourth-generation local, it breaks my heart in two to see a proposal that will bastardize the county I love so much, all in the name of a highly subsidized Green New Deal. Knowing that the county as a whole does not support this extreme government overreach program, I wanted to make sure you understood that Elbert County does not want to see these high voltage lines where we live. Since it's always best to speak about how it affects me as a person, let me be frank. Allowing this company to put these massive towers right up the guts of Highway 86 and Kiowa Bennett Road is unconscionable. You cannot let them bury your constituents under these dangerous high voltage lines for many reasons. First, it is dangerous. It's absolutely insane and completely abhorrent that these lines will literally go over the top of people's homes, like mine. You can try and Google search and find out if EMFs and radiation can damage people under these high voltage lines through a documented process called stray voltage. And you might find something buried in the big money rhetoric, but I can tell you there is ample evidence that they do. Stray voltage from these high powered lines can be directly attributed to premature animal deaths, human infertility, cancer, and even leukemia in children. I can assure you the science is out there. If you look in the right places, there's lots of data and studies that support these claims. Second, a study we have been circulating among Elbert County citizens, surely you've seen it by now, by the Wall Street Journal, gives strong evidence to the fact that property values plummet when these monstrous power lines go through their property. A whopping 50% if they're in your yard and 18% if they're just in the line of sight. For someone like me, who will have to live directly under these dangerous power lines, I probably won't be able to give my house away. And with the new proposal to cover the small acreage properties along Highway 86 and Kiowa Bennett Road with these massive towers will go right through many of our front yards. Most of Elbert County small acreage landowners, me included, will be completely upside down in our mortgages almost overnight. That is completely unacceptable. Now, we do not want to see these lines anywhere in our beautiful county. There is a fact, but probably not feasible. However, there has to be a better option than buying many, many small acreage residences under these dangerous towers and taking away the value of the biggest asset in life. For most of us, that is the equity we have in our homes. There are other options, whether XL likes them or not. There is more land further east that would not force people to live in their homes directly under this dangerous monstrosity. They can be placed a safe distance from residences and in many times out of the line of sight of people's homes. And I'm talking about way out east, away from people. More importantly, there are easements along Highway 287, I-70, and the railroad that can and should be used for this project. Areas that are literally not over the tops of people's houses. It is unacceptable to treat so many of our citizens this way and completely unnecessary for XL to build these massive lines, literally in our front yards for the benefit of Denver. These lines, if they have to go through so many properties, can be buried underground. More cost, yes. Safer from EMF also, yes. Out of the line of sight and protects our home values, yes. I would like to cite the local county commissioners who made that happen in Chino Hills, California. This is the most recent update on their website, Southern California's Edison project to underground the Tehachapi renewable transmission began in September 2013 and is essentially complete. Multiple contractors constructed the project in order to reduce the impact on Chino Hills residents. The TRTP line was energized in the fourth quarter of 16. This is one of the many places that held power companies' feet to the fire in an effort to keep their county constituents safe with property values still intact. It can be done, and if XL insists on hurting so many Elbert County homeowners, it should be pursued at all costs. In conclusion, please help us. I'm calling on you to stand with us against XL to support or to protect Elbert County homeowners from being victimized by this incredible overreach. Utilize all your resources, confer with the county attorney, protect us little guys who don't have a team of high-powered lawyers at our disposal. We are your constituents. We voted you into office, and we need your help. We are Elbert County, and we need you to stand tall and stand up for you. Stand up for us. Thank you for your time. Rayanne Knowles, 392244 Kiowa Bennett Road, Kiowa, Colorado. Apologize for stumbling over a couple of those words. So those are the letters we received by email prior to the meeting. So at this point, I would open this up to public comment in the room. I guess we had a sign-up sheet.
Commissioner, we only had 3 people signed up, so
Okay.
I would ask, there's a sign-up sheet if you do comment to write your name and address up there. The next one up there is Joe Price.
So, Mr. Price? Yep. Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen, and good morning, neighbors.
Morning, sir.
I'll try to keep my comments to some items that I haven't heard brought up here. And thank you, by the way, for some of the background. A lot of my reason for coming here was to find some information, because what we've been getting is a lot of rumor and innuendo. We get rather vague maps from Excel. They haven't responded to. I sent them responded to a survey that they did online and asked that they contact me. They never did. I've tried to call them several times and left voicemails, no response. So I'm a little concerned about the information flow. I'll state for the record that I don't think that these power lines should run anywhere near the town. Which brings me to really the next point that I want to make. And it has to do, I'd like to know how the county is engaged from a planning perspective and how this fits into our vision for what the future of the county is going to look like. By the way, I didn't mention I live about 3 miles up Kiowa Bennett Road on Indian Hill Circle, just to make sure we're clear on that. So this would run relatively close to where I live. But ultimately, how does this fit into the county plan? What's the overall plan? I know there are other plans for this corridor, and putting those power lines in would have a substantial impact on the plans that the county has at this point. So we need to be engaged from that perspective is my comment. There's another one too from a planning perspective, and what's in this for us, right? Even if we move these power lines way out east, if that ends up happening, why is this not a multi-purpose path? Why aren't we holding Excel's feet to the fire, the PUC's feet to the fire, et cetera, everybody who's engaged? There's room for a green belt, even if it is out in relatively unused land, right, or grazing, where people don't live is my point. Why aren't we demanding multi-use for this path? Could be equestrian, bicycle paths, it could be room for future utilities. We may at some point have to bring additional electricity, additional water into the county, internet services, those sorts of things come to mind. So, and I guess my final question is, how can we help as citizens to engage with the county to make some of these things happen? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we'll roll through all public comment, and then if we have some responses, we'll try to answer questions if we have them, or at least we'll keep those in mind as if and when we get an application. So what was the next name, please?
Debbie Ullum.
Ms. Ullum.
So Debbie Ullum, I live at 11195 Copper Canyon Circle. I know all of you guys been in here several times. I'm here to tell you on February 14th, we received a phone call from a contractor working with Excel. The contractor stated, the map you're seeing is not accurate. I want you to know, they tell us these are their proposed maps, but their own contractor is telling me it's not accurate. They want to butt right up to my property. No, thank you. I'm going to tell you, this is not a matter of not in my backyard. I'll be honest with you. I follow it all. I'm here to ask you to do your homework. Read the PUC agreements. Explore the property value studies about the decrease in the property value for owners within proximities of high voltage lines and wind farms. They're anywhere from 10% to 43 and as high as 50 if you're right under them. Like she said, you're going to give your property away. You're better off. Explore the permanent stigmatism of these properties near these structures. Explore the burdens put on the property owners Since the development of the wind farms in eastern Elbert County, property owners have discovered it is nearly impossible to get financing for their properties or buyers to get financing in some cases. This is all something we never saw coming. We never thought that would be an issue. We've had clients that even just have a signed potential pad site for a wind turbine. The buyers can't get financing for their property. This is a major stigmatism. I also want to point out that, those people can only go to smaller banks, such as Farmers State Bank, where it can go before a little board, and then they're going to pay a higher interest rate. It's things we just never thought of. As a realtor and lifelong citizen of Elbert County, I make every effort to try to respect someone's right to use their property or develop it. If our rules allow for it, we don't have a choice. We have to adjust our rules if we want to fight these things. That is not this scenario. Excel stands to take what they cannot buy. This is not for the benefit of your taxpayers. I want to point out too, think about this. If our property values decline, what happens to our assessed values? The neighbor just paid $1.8 million for a house with views that did not include these lines or health hazards. If Excel has allowed to diminish the values, imagine what her property taxes are going to do. And she's going to fight you. She's going to go to the state level to drop her value because it's no longer worth what she paid for it. That affects all of our services, even if that line isn't in our backyard. As you travel I-70, you're directed to the scenic drive on Highway 86. Kiowa and the communities of Elbert County count on the people passing through for fuel, food, and more. The plan to go along Highway 86 to the edge of Kiowa is ridiculous. The plan to go...
3 minutes.
I'm almost done, sorry. The plan to go way out west, I get, is cost prohibitive, and I realize we don't want them in the basin. We don't want them in our county, period. I'll be honest with you. Something you need to notice in the PUC agreement, please, is that for every $10 million that Excel saves on construction, they are rebated $1 million. Their ratepayers aren't getting that rebate, they are. Public service is going to get it. This line is not about meeting the needs of our rural power services. It's about meeting clean energy in 2030 at our cost. I don't find that acceptable. I also just want to say and ask that you all read the letter that the town of Kiowa sent to Excel. The town of Kiowa the board has taken an official stance against this coming to their town. It will hurt the values. And I would like for you guys all to read this and keep it as a copy for the board. All I can ask you to do is to stand up and protect us. I'll give you this letter. Okay.
So we have Carrie Giblets.
Good morning. My name is Carrie Giblets. I live at 19656 Wiedemeyer Road, Kiowa. Not along Excel's preferred route, but along their alternate route. I've spoken with you many, many times before. I'm on the board of Elbert County Environmental Alliance, ECEA. And this morning I'd like to share with you some of the findings that were reported in this valuation guidelines for properties with electric transmission lines, and I'll share the copy with you. This is a review of empirical and literature studies on the impact that electric transmission lines have on land value that was done for the San Diego Public Utilities Commission. Since we are a rural agricultural community, I'm only going to focus on those things, on those findings. For rural properties that are utilized for agricultural purposes, the most likely buyer would be one who, 1, prefers the rural lifestyle over the urban lifestyle, 2, typically generates income from working in the agricultural field, 3, would be sensitive to environmental issues that affect the uses of the land and the viewshed of the land, and 4, would be sensitive to health and safety issues relating to the land and its use. It is most likely that such a person, when confronted with an electric transmission line traversing the property, would view such an improvement as aesthetically ugly, potentially hazardous to their health, disruptive to rural lifestyle, and potentially harmful to the use of land for agricultural purposes. All of the studies that were reviewed show a significant loss in property value once high voltage power lines are present. Some estimates were up to 75%. In addition, it was reported that many buyers refuse to even look at such properties, and it can take up to 6 times longer for properties to sell if they are adjoining high transmission line easements. In his literature study, the author reports, quote, "Throughout the nation's rural communities, literature research suggests that the presence of a high voltage transmission line easement can have noticeable impact on both the use and appeal of rural properties and farms. Common concerns include stray voltage, health risks to livestock and cattle, diminished livelihoods and heritage, limited land use, and lessened aesthetic appeal." He also reports that diminished property values can also impact communities. In one case, Delaware residents were worried that a proposed 1,200 megawatt high voltage transmission line would depress local property values, thus weakening the local tax base and leading to higher taxes to offset the losses. Kent Sick, an author of a 1999 paper on power lines and property values, projects losses from a few percentage points to 53%. These lines indisputably damage our land, yet the landowner must continue to pay taxes on this damaged land. In the past week, since Excel contractors have been contacting Elbert County landowners, I have been inundated with phone calls, emails, and messages from landowners, and their concerns echo the findings in these studies. Elbert County landowners do not want high voltage power lines on or near their property.
Thank you.
That's all that signed up.
Okay. Do we have others in the room that would like to speak? Diana?
Good morning, Diana Edstrom. I'm at 26060 County Road 41 in Elbert. I was going to kind of look at the legal options. So my questions for you guys are, what legal options does the county have to block this? Are you working with other counties that are impacted by this transmission line? If the county, and if so, have they been fighting this? What options are there, maybe working with some of the other counties? If the county can do nothing legally, then what options do the citizens have? Has the county looked at the overall impact of property values that multiple people have commented on, and how a decrease will negatively impact the fiscal health of the county, as well as all of the special districts that we have? And if not, will you begin a study so that we've got some hard information that can be used in this fight? Also, are you in direct contact with Excel, especially since it sounds like they didn't bring the county into things a couple years ago when the postcards started going out? And the fact that Excel has also said that they are now in the process of contacting the property owners that are on the current path to start to discuss easements, purchasing the right-of-way, the property, whatever we call it. So if the citizens are the only ones that can fight this, obviously it's going to be a very expensive uphill battle. So thank you.
Do you have anybody else in the room that would? Ma'am.
Hi. My name is Kayla Walker. I live on 11220 Copper Canyon Circle. And I just want to second everyone's statements, concerns, as a realtor as well, and living right, essentially, in the front yard of the property. The power lines, property values, health, livestock health. I have cattle, and we use that meat to feed my family. So lots of concern there as well. And I did call Excel, their 1-800 number on the website, and I got a phone call back. And he was very kind, and I said, I want to know where we're at, what the process looks like. And he said, we have not submitted an application, there is no permit in process, and kind of then put the burden on your shoulders saying it's up to the county commissioners on the next steps. So that's the information that I received from Excel. Wanted to share that. Also, if we can get some clarification on how that whole process works, you know, because it could be a blame game in such a high cost, passionate project. So thank you guys, and thank you neighbors.
Thank you. Do we have any other folks? Yes, sir.
My name's Dustin Wheeland. I'm at 14018 Highway 86. Moved out here about a year ago to get away from all the political BS. You know, they want to put a pole right in the middle of my property. I own 5 acres. That, to me, I mean, that kills my property value. Right here on this sheet, I didn't come up here with some elaborate written down thing to speech to you guys, right? But it says, we value honesty, integrity, and respect for the rights of all individuals. That's you guys. So I am asking you guys, please, for everyone in the room, everyone in Elbert County, we don't need this. We don't need this for multiple reasons that everyone else has stated. I don't need to stand here and say things that have already been said, but from my conversation with the lady that called me, was basically it all comes down to you guys. You guys are the ones that can stop this. So I'm asking you guys, please, for everybody here, you know, do what you can. I would also like to know, you know, they're telling me I got to give them 150 foot off my front property line for an easement. That pretty much comes up to the front of my house. I bought this place so I could put a shop out there, you know, come out here, like I said, get away from the political stuff in town. So, again, that's it, but I hope that you guys will stand behind us and help us fight the people behind this, because it's going to be detrimental to everybody.
Can you give me your name again, please? I didn't hear it.
Dustin Wheeland.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna, oh, sorry, sir, I was looking right past you.
Hi, my name is Henry Smith. I live at 25411 County Road 105. We live on the preferred route of coming up from the south. We'll have about 13 miles of power line on us if we follow their route, which concerns me considerably because that's a substantial financial loss that we could take. Excel has told me that, and others in a meeting the other day, that if the Board of County Commissioners objects to their plan, that they would go do something else, which I rather doubt, because the big problem not only is Excel, but it's the PUC. And that's an overriding problem in the whole thing, and the PUC is going to do what they want, which is their existence. But I would appreciate all of your help in moving the power lines further east. I know that helps me, but it doesn't help the people that are out there. They do have a right-of-way that they've already have easements on when they come up from the wind towers down around south of Matheson in that area. To me, it makes much more sense to follow the route that they already have. I understand that the Air Force is objecting to moving them out there because of their fly rights. But if the Air Force is flying that low, we have another problem. Anyway, I would appreciate your help and all that we can do to move this further east for me. Thank you.
Just a question for you, Hank, is that when the 13 miles going across, have they talked about what their deal would look like or anything like that?
No. There was a meeting last week at Greg Mitchell's house, and they had with Excel, and a couple of people went up there to that. No, they are not giving us any information on what the agreement looks like, what they're willing to pay, or anything like that right now. And I think there's a reason for that. They're going to push it back, that argument back as far as they can, because it's not going to be what's going to be acceptable. So.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning. My name's Lee Benjamin at 29691 State Highway 86. I'll be the first to admit I'm a fan of electricity. My grandparents were raised without it, and when my grandmother had the opportunity to extend rural electric out to her family, she was the first to sign up for it. I don't think any of us in the room would like to go without it. However, there's points and places where I think it should be put. Again, I'm not unlike any of y'all in the room. I don't think any of us in the county of Elbert's going to see a great deal of economic benefit from the power line. You've heard all of these stories so many times, you probably have nightmares at night about them. But I did want to take a few minutes out of my day, drive on some rather snowy covered roads to come in and express my concerns. As we all know, Rush Creek is in place and there's a power line further east. And I sure don't wish another power line on the Fraser family and others, but it sure seems to make a lot more sense to me to run a power line where one's already existing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Do we have anybody else? And I'm not trying to cut anybody off. If there is anybody that wants to speak, please. All righty. Okay, with that, I'll close public comment. Again, I truly appreciate everybody coming out and the information that you've provided as well. We're in an interesting position as commissioners, and I think you probably heard us all, many in the room anyway, have heard us speak on this topic before. In general, and the PUC was referenced several times, and I mentioned it earlier, when projects such as this, generally utilities will approach the PUC for, to generally get approval that what they want to do meets a need in the state. Then it rolls into local land use issues, and then, so in that case, if they bring an application, we have to hear it. We have a responsibility to provide a fair hearing to both sides. So don't read anything into what you hear from us or don't hear from us, but we cannot predetermine the outcome of a public hearing. If we do so, it's very easy to go to a court and overturn our decision. So if we're not raising up pitchforks and torches with you, it's not because we don't necessarily agree or because we disagree. It's just we've got to preserve our ability to be able to make this decision on behalf of residents of the county, of the entire county. If we were to not find a way to get Excel to accommodate what this county could accept, and we turned down an application, their appeal authority is back to the PUC that originally said, yes, you can proceed with this project in some manner. If the PUC overrides a decision we make, or we make a decision that the people don't like, we and the citizens affected, depending on what that outcome is, can go back and protest the PUC, and they're required to reconsider their decision too. So this can be a very, very lengthy process. Some of the questions that were brought up in terms of have we looked at impacts, economic and otherwise. We have not at this point, because that kind of requires to have an application to judge on. But part of the 1041 process as we went through it is it does levy requirements. There's a broad range of studies that we can demand be funded by the applicant. And anything that we need to be able to make a good decision, I have no problem asking the applicant to fund a third party that we agree to do those studies on our behalf and make sure that we have that information. Little concern, I mean, the folks that make phone calls and the folks they're working for have told a lot of stories to a lot of people over the last couple of years. So, and Dustin, when you spoke, you said that you have to give them a 150-foot easement. Nobody in this room has to give anything. If it's your property, it's your property. If there is a route that is finally approved that does run across your property and you haven't given permission, the utilities would have the authority of eminent domain to go to the courts. There's a lot riding on this for Excel, and frankly, that doesn't concern me what's riding on them. But time is one of their enemies. So, you know, as we work through these issues, as I said at the beginning, we've been pretty clear in where we felt that it would be appropriate for this line to pass if it comes through the county. And it was generally along the Rush Creek line. When that came before us in 2017, I believe it was, all the land that was used for both siting of windmills, and I know people have learned a lot since, and for the route of the line, those were voluntary negotiations with it was a predecessor to Excel, or Excel brought the project afterwards, but nothing that came before us in that had anything other than willing landowners, which made that decision a little easier on our side. In terms of other counties, I can tell you Arapahoe with Aurora, they want the power. We're kind of the last remaining holdout. The Air Force had pushed El Paso to go as far east as they could. I don't know the specific status in El Paso, but I think they were accepting of the line exiting in that Rama area. That doesn't mean that you can't make a turn and go east and then come back north again. Same way you can run up to the Brick House station where the Rush Creek line runs into an Arapahoe and then go west. So, as for the $1 million rebate for every $10 million in savings, thanks for bringing that up. I will read through that because it kind of begs the question of savings based on what? Their most expensive option or their first reasonable option? So there is going to be a lot to digest here, and I know there were some questions about what citizens can do, and I would continue to reach out to Excel, continue to reach out to the PUC. As you find information, bring it to us as well, because there's 3 of us and about a 6-person staff in the CDS shop. If there's something else out there that we need to know, please bring it to us. But I think being united in what you find is acceptable in the county and keeping that message strongly going to the PUC and Excel is one thing that citizens can do. If, you know, if somebody approaches you about wanting to put something on your land, again, remember always that it is your land. You know, I doubt that they want to come to us with a preferred route that requires hundreds of properties to go to court on. So the harder it is for them to accumulate willing landowners, probably the more likely they are to look for other routes. They've been at this for a long time. I mean, a couple of years now. I'm not surprised. I'm very surprised, Kayla, that they answered your call and talked to you. That's interesting and maybe promising, or maybe it was a mistake and they were expecting a call from somebody else. But the experience that a lot of you presented with, you know, not being told anything, or just it's not us, it's them, doesn't serve isn't very helpful to any of us. But I do think we're in a pretty good position to start with the updated 1041s and the ability to demand those studies. Again, I don't want it to seem like we're passive, but we have to have an application before us before we can respond to an application. If we start responding and demanding and saying this is what is acceptable before we even see an application, we're very likely to have our authority to make that decision taken from us. So I guess I'll end it with that, but if you guys want to add anything.
Yeah, most of what Chris said there was exactly what we've been talking about when we went through, 6 public meetings on the updating of the 1041 regulations. And one of the things that we inserted in those 1041 regulations is at the BOCC's discretion, notice the word discretion, we can require, and Chris has already talked about this a little bit, we can require a third-party study that will focus on that specific item. And the item that was brought up mostly here was property values. Property values, we could ask for a third-party study on that. The stray voltage, all of these different things, they will be taken into consideration. And like Chris said, until we see what they really want to do, and one of you did say that the pathway that they've got kind of on their deal is not accurate. So we don't even know who is truly being impacted in a real sense. One of the things is that we will evaluate this in a very analytical sort of a way. And I don't mean sort of a way, I mean in a very analytical way, because we want to do what's right for Elbert County. And one of the things that I find amusing is on one of their publications, they said that at the public's guidance, they'd pick this new route. And I was waiting for that person to stand up and say what they want to say. Be that as it may, we don't have an application yet. It's not gone through even a pre-application yet. All we have is the feedback from their online stuff. And quite often that stuff changes very regularly. So like Chris said, we can't really direct our attention at anything specific because we don't have anything specific to analyze. But I guarantee you that each one of the three of us will analyze this in the most logical sort of a way. I've already talked too much.
I'll just echo what these guys have said. Of course, I'm fairly new to this seat. I used to be sitting over there, so I've heard many of your comments already. And I know former Commissioner Pettit was in line with where these guys were, as am I. And so I just ask you guys to continue to be engaged, continue to feed us information, talking with the PUC, talking with Excel. That's where I think it's interesting. A couple people here mentioned that when they did talk to Excel, they said it was in our court, and I would love to have that in writing. That would be a good thing. But truly, until we have something, the ball really is in their court for them to send it over to us before we can really look and see what their actual proposal is. But stay engaged. Don't let them trying to say it's our 100% responsibility drive a wedge between us and you. That would be my ask.
I would just kind of round this out by, as Grant said, they've publicly said this new preferred route is not, it was a response to public input. I'll let you judge what type of response that is. But the fact that it uses segments that they'd previously discarded is concerning, because that kind of means to me that everything is still wide open. And then again, now saying that the maps aren't quite right. I mean, everything, I was under the impression that they were going to jump Kiowa Bennett and move to the west, and last time I checked, Copper Canyon's on the east side, so yeah. The one thing we will dig up, and I think probably the best thing I'll communicate with Ms. Giblets, but we, several months ago, had the general counsel for the PUC came in to present to us. We had asked for several months to get somebody from the PUC staff to come in and talk to us about the process in a public setting, because we wanted to make sure we understood. They did send somebody out. He stood there and told the commissioners in a workshop that essentially that the ball was in our court. We're the final say. That was, well, that's not quite what we understood, but that's great to hear. And the next morning, that was on a Tuesday afternoon. The next morning at 8 was our regular BOCC meeting. The deputy director of the PUC and their general counsel was standing outside the door saying they really wanted to talk to us, to let us know that the guy they'd sent the day before was absolutely wrong. But the gentleman, actually, their general counsel actually works for the Attorney General's office, and it's a lot of legalese, but he walked through very specifically what all the authorities were, what the various processes, appeal and reconsideration were, and that should be on video. So we'll dig up the date of that and make sure that it's available if people have some interest in what steps there are in this. And I'm sure there's more than was talked about that day, but we continue to educate ourselves as this gets closer and closer too. So I do thank you all for coming out and sharing your thoughts. And I do absolutely, as Dallas said, encourage you to keep sharing those thoughts and show up at the public hearings. With that, I think we're done with public comment, and we'll move on to discussion items for the day. And
Thanks everyone for coming. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. If you'd like, we'll take a quick recess if folks want to leave. Otherwise, we have other fascinating issues of county matters to discuss. righty, it's 10:15, we're coming out of recess. We'll pick back up with our first discussion item, and that was on just general discussion of setting the scope and deliverables for a county water plan.
This will be a plan that we're conducting this year. This will tie directly to the county comprehensive plan that was created in 2018, updated. And in that plan, there's a goal that's outlined specific to a water plan. As you're aware, there have been two relative recent water-related studies. One was the Elbert County Rural Water Supply Study from 2018, and then an ongoing USGS well monitoring study as well. So with this plan, we'll work with a consultant to help us in this endeavor, and then of course public engagement will be a critical, vital, central part of this process. Areas of focus for the plan, at least at this juncture, efficiencies and conservation are two key components, and how this connects to the 300-year water rule that you gentlemen have instituted. Of course, that's above the state requirement, which is the 100-year. When looking at conservation, it will look at how it relates to new developments, of course, also existing well users, and see what's possible on that front. Also consider how our plan would align with the state and the basin plans. In addition, we'll explore policy options that will help meet our goals, and how this is linked to our land use planning. And then one thing that's also very critical would be just the overall general education piece for this type of plan. We need to have clear messaging, also being able to present the information in an understandable way, in a way that I can understand it, and then others in the public as well. Of course, that'll state the facts, and then further help clear up any type of misconceptions surrounding this very important subject. As with any study, there will be other focus areas I'm assuming will be unveiled, uncovered along the way through the process, especially when we partner with a consultant that will assist us. We do have this particular plan in our budget. We're also seeking grant funding. So we went before the South Platte Basin Roundtable late last year, presented this plan. They liked our presentation and suggested that it would go before the CWCB, that's the Colorado Water Conservation Board, with this grant request. So it was supported, and now we're just awaiting word from the CWCB, and it's a Water Supply Reserve Fund grant. That's the name of it, and we'll see. We'll be standing by to see what happens with that. So again, this will be a county-wide plan. We're going to work with key stakeholders, engage with the public like we do with other plans, and looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting project, and very important indeed. So any questions or comments that you gentlemen have, certainly welcome those. Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple quick questions. You said that this study will incorporate the entire county?
Yes. Well, it's obviously it'll have the central theme will be the unincorporated parts of Elbert County, but we will include the towns in the process as well.
But like the eastern part of our county where there's no development and things like that, but there'll still be some geological understanding of how that water works?
Indeed, yeah. It'll cover across the county from west to east, north to south.
The lands that are adjacent to other counties like Douglas County and Arapahoe County, will there be some kind of an understanding? Are we competing for the water across the border, so to speak?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner. As you may be aware, there have actually been few water master plans conducted by counties to date in the state. El Paso County has completed one. And then, of course, another one of our neighboring counties, Arapahoe County, is undertaking this effort as we speak as well. So we in Elbert County will be, in some respect, forerunners in pursuing this type of water master plan.
I appreciate you talking about that there'll be some public education with it. Some of that stuff gets pretty technical and it's hard to go through. I don't know if I've had the opportunity, if that's what you call it or not, to look at some of the reports from the USGS well study, and it's pretty detailed and make you go cross-eyed, and you really need someone to help you to sort through what it means. And so I think the education part for the citizens and for us is important, so we can interpret that correctly. And some people won't believe any good news that might come out of it, but we need to have that education piece in place that helps us make decisions.
Yeah, I agree with you, Commissioner. As I mentioned, I need this type of material presented in very layperson terms.
Appreciate that. Yeah, and again, I know we're pending the outcome of the decision on the grant, and then I think the devil in the details will be the writing of the RFP, and I think getting stakeholders together at that point so we know what we're asking for at the end is going to be very important. I know personally, I'd like us to look at how we further define the 300-year water rule. Right now, it's still just kind of a mass of, you got 5 aquifers below you, you can suck one dry in the first 50 years, then proceed downward. That's really not our intent, but that's the language currently. And I know there's probably some impacts on property rights as well. Which aquifer, how much we can dictate how much of each aquifer could be used. But again, I'd like to see something along the lines of refining that. We have many years of USGS data now since the initial rural water study was done, so I think there's an opportunity to validate assumptions that were made in that original water study with the actual data that's been recorded since. And then, again, I think the original study looked at the amounts of water versus, how much might be used, but really didn't look at the ability to economically recover the water. So to tell somebody you got plenty of water, you just got to drill an 1,800-foot well for your individual home is a little disingenuous. And then I think as part of it is just, again, looking forward at technology and what it's going to bring. We're coming up on our 150th anniversary, and 150 years ago, we had some streams that were running in hand-dug alluvial wells. Now it's not uncommon to have an 800-foot well at an individual residence. And I'm assuming in another 150 years, there's a lot more water that can be recovered. But how do we look at what's available now, at what cost over time? But like I said, I think there's a lot of room. Obviously, we wrote the grant for specific things that will be covered, and we've set aside other money. And if just scoping this right is very important to me. If there's something else that's a little outside the scope of the grant, but we want that would make this more valuable, that costs a little bit more money, this is the time to get it right. So.
Indeed. Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else for me?
I do not. Is there any comment on this topic from the room? Seeing none. Thank you, Mark.
Great. Thank you very much.
The next, Sean, was just to talk a bit about the draft Elbert County compensation plan, employee compensation plan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, we have a draft for the Elbert County 2023 employee compensation plan. Looking at the background of this, plan, it looks like in 2019, there was a recognized need for the compensation study. Moving forward to 2020, contracted review of county pay and comparisons. 2021, completed study, pay adjustments made, 3 pay scales developed, differing philosophies. 2022, Colorado Equal Pay for Equal Work Act enacted. And that brings us to 2023, where we now have this draft that is ready for review. The compensation philosophy that it covers, several markers, serve our citizens and safeguarding taxpayer dollars, consistent and open communication with employees, ensure internal parity, equal pay for equal work, local job market parity, individual pay, COLA annually and performance adjustments, benefits tangible and intangible, and sustainability. Just speaking about the philosophy about this just a little bit, going back and understanding how the senior leadership of this county has developed this document to guide development of compensation policies and procedures that assist us in recruiting and retaining a talented workforce. And at the same time, we have to balance that with the competition that is out here and the fact that we have limited resources. Other issues that are very important, obviously, are safeguarding the taxpayer dollars, because the whole purpose of having this talented pool or workforce is, in fact, that we are able to meet the needs of the community, the citizens that we are serving. But at the same time, we want to maintain a talented workforce and retain the talent that we've developed. Other items to think about is moving forward, consistent and open communication with our employees, ensuring the internal parity, so looking at the different positions, the skill, the education and experience, the responsibility, the complexity of the work, employee safety, supervision, the physical and intellectual demands of the jobs, the work conditions, environmental and the hazards associated with different types of work. All these things will need to be further examined and determined as we consider our approach to these established salary ranges. The county recognized 3 categories: general administrative services, trade and labor, so that's the facilities, maintenance workers, and road and bridge equipment operators, for example, and of course our sworn law enforcement positions. So our Human Resources Department, in coordination with the department heads, will maintain job descriptions for all our positions, and we'll have to continually work together to update those things. I will approve the job descriptions after I've had a chance to look at them and work with department heads on developing new positions. As changes are needed, we will continue to examine our pay range levels for our existing positions, and keeping in mind that we do have limitations, and at the same time, we do have competition out there. So it is a fine line that we are walking, but we're still going to try to seek balance in accomplishing that. With that being said, the local job market, obviously, we have to recognize the fact that we are competing for employees with these other entities in the area, as well as, the private and the public sector. So competition never changes, and we're going to have to continue to be strategic, smart in our approach, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound as we look at constantly reviewing these things. Some of the other items covered in this plan are cost of living adjustments where appropriate, and if these things are granted, how do we apply them equally? Percentage of pay increase to all positions other than elected officials. Increases for merit will be based on multiple factors, which will be considered during each employee's annual date of hire evaluation. So we do have evaluations that include overall performance, and they look at job-related functions as well as education, professional development like certifications, as well as the experience and scope of responsibilities that change as a person develops during their career time with the county. So this evaluation process will be a key element in ascertaining and looking at the professional development and advancement and for retention of our employees. Other issues mentioned are benefits and, of course, fiscal sustainability, because we have to keep in mind that the most important resource for counties in order to be able to accomplish their goals and objectives is to have a qualified staff. You know, our greatest resource are the people that are accomplishing the work. And if we aren't able to retain those folks, then that's going to be a problem for us moving forward. So this plan in itself, in essence, is a great step in creating an approach to filling that void, retaining our employees and attracting new talent to fill open positions. So lessons learned mentioned in this is that from the Great Recession resulted in a establishment of a stability fund so that cuts in work hours, pay, or number of employees should not have to be considered in a period of economic downturn. So obviously we look at the amount of funds we have, and we plan for rainy days so that we can sustain the county, its needs, meet the needs of the public, and at the same time meet the promises that we've made to our employees. So that's all I have to say on the compensation philosophy. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to discuss.
The thing I appreciate the most is this developing a plan, something that each and every person can read and understand how we will implement different aspects with respect to employment in the county. Thanks for putting the plan together.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just glad we're at where we're at now with a really substantial draft. So if we can get that, I mean, the stakeholder or kind of the working group that put this together was pretty representative of the county as a whole. I know the overall philosophy had gone out to all the directors and electeds at the beginning as kind of the framework to start building the plan off of. But now that the plan's together, it'd be good if we can put it out for comment to the directors and elected officials, and if there's any clarifying questions or language that needs to change to get their input, and then we can focus on the kind of the next steps of refining the pay scales, job descriptions, and really trying to figure out what those kind of benchmark positions are, so we don't have to go back out for a broad study of 200 positions in the county. That we can look at a dozen or two that are representative as we get folks clustered together. So appreciate that, Sean. Other comments or questions in the room? All righty, seeing none. Discussion of the 2024 budget goals. Turn it over to Dallas.
Okay, we have before us a draft copy of the 2024 budget goals, Commissioner's 2024 budget goals. A lot of carryover from last year's budget goals, but some adjustments have been made as well. The purpose of this paper is to give guidance to the Budget Officer, Budget Steering Committee, elected officials, and department heads as the 2024 budget is developed. And it just kind of outlines budget priorities in the budget process, what current practices need to be evaluated, and formulation of additional finance policies that are recommended. Commissioner Richardson will probably be surprised that I'm recommending more policies, but it looks like here we have some. Particularly at the bottom, I just want to make a note, the three at the bottom, that we need to develop a plan for investment of cash in lieu of open space revenues, develop a policy guidance for the use of impact fees, which I believe those were carryovers from last year with all our vacancies didn't quite get done. And then a new one that came up in our budget steering committee as we were talking about this was to develop a policy guidance for use of incoming severance tax and royalty revenue. I don't know about everybody else at their house, but if suddenly you get a check out of the blue you're not aware of, it kind of just goes away if you don't have a plan for it. So I think we need to start putting a policy and plan together that.
Just stealing from your comment there, is that's becoming a significant number. Is that the severance last year was over $400,000 for one well. Now we have 4 wells. I'm talking about new wells. And the drilling operator has talked to me and said they plan by the end of 2023 to have between 14 and 16 wells in the county. So having a policy there is very important.
Yep. So I agree in that, as did the Budget Steering Committee. And so we'll be continue to meet when we formalize this and approve it. We'll get back with the Budget Steering Committee with Sean, and we'll start making plans. But that's where we're at with this right now.
Alrighty, thank you. Yeah, we had talked a little bit. The one thing might not rise to the level of this page, but over the last several years, the cost to insure the county has risen greatly, and it's across the board for local governments. But as part of the balancing at CTSI of trying to keep overall coverage costs from going up even more is raising the deductibles. So the deductibles 3 or 4 years ago were minimal. I mean, $500 for automobile coverage. About, I think, 10 grand for potential lawsuits. So there's areas where that's moved up to 30, 35 on the lawsuit side. Vehicle accidents, I think, are up to 1,500. So just looking at a way to, we've always just kind of absorbed our deductibles out of the general fund overage, but as part of and this might not be budget goals as much as overall just risk management and how we look at that in the county is, it may be time to start asking departments to budget for deductibles, just so there's a little more visibility on the impacts of using our insurance, or hopefully to prompt a little more thoughtful way of going about business, so we're reducing accidents or reducing potential liabilities. That's around that. Has this gone out to electeds and directors? Or?
It has not.
So I think that's another to kind of get that out to everybody and see if there's any other comments and try to bring it back to final at our next meeting. Alrighty. So moving on to action items. Consideration of the February 8th, 2023 minutes. I'd accept a motion to.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the February 8th, 2023 minutes as written and dispense with the reading of those minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented and dispense with the reading. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. The next is consideration of an intergovernmental agreement between Elbert County and Lincoln County regarding social services. Darcy, thanks for waiting. Welcome back. I'm sure this is...
Good morning, commissioners, and everyone else that's left. That's lots less people. I'm Darcy Bolding, the Director of Human Services here in Elbert County, and I'm here asking for consideration to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Lincoln County to provide their child care assistance program services. This will be similar to what we did a couple months ago with Phillips County with their child support program. They have not been successful in recruiting a CCAP worker in Lincoln County, and they have only 4 cases and only 6 providers, which does not really increase our workload much. The director, Andy, and I have talked about that anything can happen tomorrow and they could get an influx of cases, and we will definitely revisit that if that does happen. But they have pretty much stayed in that range over the last 5 years. So I don't really see that and really we could probably accommodate them up to about 25 cases and 20 providers. So we don't see that it's gonna be an impact fiscally. We will bill them for our services, and we'll keep 100% time reporting from our supervisor plus our worker that does CCAP for our county. And then we'll bill them every month, and they will use their CCAP allocation to reimburse us for those services. Questions?
Questions, or?
You answered my question, were they going to reimburse us for our costs, and you just said yes.
Yes, they are.
I think it's great to help out counties. Anytime we have a cooperation between counties, it makes everybody stronger, and if we can do that, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because you never know when it's going to be us.
Yeah,
And they have helped us a lot with, some of our child welfare cases that are on that side of Elbert County. They will have helped us out with visitation, so we want to keep those relationships intact, because you'll never know if we would need them to do the opposite.
No, I think it is a good idea. It's well done, and if you have the resource, you have the ability to do it, and they can pay for it. And I know we've got a lot of extended families that cross that border
Right.
as well, so working together makes sense.
And we have agreements with some of those providers as well that they have in Lincoln County, so it won't be really that much added work.
Okay, well, that's good. So, I guess I would accept a motion to approve the IGA.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the intergovernmental agreement between Lincoln County and Elbert County regarding social services.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the IGA between Elbert County and Lincoln County for social services. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. And then finally, we've got a second amended and restated IGA for ambulance secure transportation licensing. Bart.
Bart Greer, County Attorney. This is not exactly new. In one of our recent meetings, we actually had essentially a prior version of this. This is a intergovernmental agreement associated with, secure transportation licensing and inspection, associated with ambulance services that in some aspects of carriers for folks that are transported for mental health reasons and that sort of thing. This is in response to, recent litigation, or legislation, I should say, by the state. There was a prior version that we agreed with, approved at a board meeting, and then as is not atypical with an agreement that has, 5, 6, 7 signatory counties associated with it, there was a couple of minor changes that I don't believe are necessarily material to the nature of the agreement, but they are changes, and so I'm just asking the board to approve this agreement. Changes are very minor, and it doesn't really change anything substantively for the county.
I have none.
Okay, I have no questions. Like I said, it did not seem to be different this time than last time, so if there were changes, they certainly are minor. So with that, I would accept a motion to approve the second amended and restated IGA for...
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the second amended and restated intergovernmental agreement for ambulance secure transportation, licensing, and inspection as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. All righty. Board planning. So what I caught here, we'll have the OEM's hazard mitigation plan in front of us for discussion at the next meeting. We'll be taking at least the adoption of the compensation plan and budget goals. I think we can take to action for approval. And then kind of a new topic, but kind of brewing in the legislature, is got a draft resolution regarding discharge of weapons in unincorporated areas of the county. The state is, at least the legislature on the House side, has approved House Bill 231165 that would grant counties authority to pretty much bar any shooting on private property in the unincorporated area. It kind of steps a little too far, and we've got a draft resolution that essentially would oppose that and then direct CDS and the Planning Commission to strengthen some of the protections that we do have within our zoning regulations. So if future commissioners wanted to infringe on people's rights, there'd at least have to be a public hearing to do so. Anything else you'd like to see added? No? Alrighty, that gets us going. We do have one item for land use at 1 p.m. Staff's recommending a continuance, so it'll be a very brief session, but it's 10:46. We're in recess, and we will reconvene here at 1 p.m. for that land use continuance. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching.